Thank you, dear Chair. I would like to welcome you all to Istanbul. Today I'm going to talk about creativity and local governance in the case of Bursa, located in Turkey. In this presentation, the concept will be of creativity and local governance will be discussed with examples from Bursa, which is a 2,200-year-old city, which was the first capital of the Ottoman Empire and which is the fourth largest city of Turkey at present. The discussion will cover different scales in the city. The first part consists of the city at large. The second, the Cumalı Kızık village in Bursa, which is an intrinsic case study of creativity and local governance. And finally, the Asia Studio in Bursa workshop in Mise village, which has the main topic of creativity and local workshop, of local governance. In the beginning, Bursa was situated in the Bursa, which is situated in the southern Marmara region, has been the cradle of many civilizations since 6000 BC, and it was founded in the 2nd century BC by the Bithynians. The Bithynian king Prusias I built the city called Prusias ad Olympum on a hill in 185 BC and surrounded it with city walls. Through time, the name of the city was first converted into Prusa and later into Bursa. This is the hill where Bursa was first established and the walls which are surrounding the city. This is the plan of the citadel area in the 1862 map of Bursa, and this is an aerial view showing the 5 different gates of the city walls. These are the gates of the city wall. In 74 BC, Bithynia and thus Bursa was added to the territories of the Roman Empire. After the division of the Roman Empire into East and West in 395 AD, the Byzantine period started in the region. But it was actually in this period it was not a very important city. However, after a long period of siege, Bursa was added to the Ottoman territories by Sultan Orhan in 1326 and was proclaimed as the Ottoman capital, which continued until 1453 when Istanbul became the capital. The urbanization model of Bursa in the Ottoman period consists of constructing a complex which we call a külliye, which consisted of a mosque, a medrese, imaret, and hammam and hin, which was built outside the city walls. This was the first example, which we can see here, the mosque in that complex, and it was surrounded by traditional housing zones in time. This pattern of urbanization continued with the other sultans until Istanbul became the capital. Here is an example of that first complex. The Ulu Cami Grand Mosque, constructed during the reign of Yıldırım I, which was near the Orhan Gazi complex, and which was surrounded by housing areas. This is another example of another complex. Of course, while these complexes were being constructed, developments also continued at the city center. And here we can see how the main city center developed with the different inns, with interior courtyards, the main mosque, and other smaller mosques in the area. And this is an aerial view of the same area where we can see the Grand Mosque, the Ulu Cami with its 20 domes, and different Hans and the Bezestan, which is now a jeweler's market. The importance attributed to Bursa and to this central area did not decrease after the Ottoman capital was transferred to Istanbul in 1453. and other inns were built, like the Kozahan. During this period, the distribution of the silk coming from Tabriz to Italy and spices coming from India to North European countries all went through Bursa, as Bursa was strategically located on silk and spice roads. Furthermore, silk was produced in small workshops in Bursa. Bursa was also a city where the distribution of goods from Istanbul to Anatolia were made, and after Istanbul, it was the second largest city in the area, which consisted of 50,000 inhabitants. Until the 19th century, we can say the textile production in Bursa was in the form of cottage industry, but it lost its competitiveness and price and quality against Europe's technological advantage in time. In the 19th century, we can see the establishment of factories and also other governmental, municipal, bank and school buildings and railway stations. Here you can see examples of different buildings. Bursa consists of organic neighborhoods in this period, but later, as grid planned neighborhoods were added, they continued to exist side by side. Generally, 2 or 3 stories high, the ground floor of traditional Bursa houses in Bursa were close to external life. And here, as you can see in this picture, through cantilevers, people could look on the streets. In the Republican period after 1923, the westernization objectives of Republican governments continued the westernization attempts of late Ottoman era. But later on, the typical dynamics of developing countries continued. Many interesting 20th century urban and architectural developments took part in Bursa, as we can see in these pictures. Different eras and different characteristics of what happened in the 20th century. The rapid industrialization and urbanization starting in the 1950s in Turkey brought about the need for new building types, such as factories and office buildings for private sector and mass housing in urban areas, including Bursa. And as in most large Turkish cities, there were a lot of squatter housing units which were constructed in the periphery of the city, which now consist 70% of the housing stock in large cities of Turkey. Here there are you can see 3 photographs of these squatter housing areas. At present, the city of Bursa has expanded 40 kilometers on the east-west axis. In addition to the transformation in Bursa periphery, the central parts of the city have also changed. And we can see a lot of congested areas in this city. And here there are examples of social housing areas side by side with gated communities. In recent years, the number of innovative projects and buildings, some of which are the results of competitions, have increased in Bursa. In some of these, which are related with annexes to historical buildings, original, creative approaches are prevalent. There are also examples which aim integration with nature and feature ecological approaches. In these projects, which are examples of local governance, one can feel the traces of a careful analysis of natural and built physical environment and also the social environment. For example, this is an example by a famous Turkish architect in one of the dilapidated areas in Bursa, and this is a new development which concerns giving a new use to a problematic area. This was originally used by people working in leather industry, and it's really in terms of understructure, it brought some problems, and also regionally, it really was a big problem because it was surrounded by housing areas. So this was a new development, a project which brought a new use to a problematic area. Again, this is an urban park where originally very low quality buildings existed. And in this competition, for example, the group which won the first prize proposed an urban park using the areas where the original low quality housing existed. And here, for example, each of these patterns with different colors, they are now they have different landscape architecture ideas, but each of these squares actually gives you an idea of where the original house or the apartments was located. So they, in a way, are symbolic examples of the urban pattern, but in a way it's a new park, but it's like an urban memory, and it reminds people of where those houses used to stay. These houses did not have any value at all, and they really were problematic. So this is how the architect approached this topic. Here again, this is again a river which flows from Mount Uludağ to the plains, and in this project, it was a recreation valley project, and the area was not being used, so this project gave a new use to the area. This again, it was earlier an industrial complex, which was not being used anymore. In many urban areas in the United States or in the Far East or the Middle East, there are certain industrial complexes which lose their function, and they just stay as huge buildings. And in this case, the original factory building was restored as a place for being used for local people for courses and educational activities, meetings, and a new center for a congress and cultural center was added nearby, and the area was converted into an urban park. Which is really an attractive place for people to go. So all of these examples are, in a way, like acupunctures in the city, where places where regions have lost their original functions and are given new functions in a local concept. Again, this is something which is being made by the municipality. Some important streets are being undertaken, and also making use of the local contributions of the people who are using these very buildings themselves. They are bringing, renovating the facades of the buildings and trying to bring new uses to the buildings. Again, another street renovation project, and this is again an interesting example because these are the two walls which I showed at the beginning of my lecture. This is the citadel, a part of the citadel wall, and a new function was brought within these wall area. Now, the second part, quickly, I'm going to go through a creative revitalization process in Cumalı Kısık, which is a 700-year-old Ottoman Vakıf village in Bursa, and this is basically related with local governance. Cumalı Kısık is as I said, it's a 700-year-old village, which is a neighborhood of Bursa at present. And it's a very important example of Ottoman rural architecture and has been preserved, maybe coincidentally, up to this date. Here you can see the village from the minaret. This is a photograph of the roofs of the houses. It's one of the 7 Kızık villages which was established on the skirts of Mount Uludağ to the east of Bursa at the beginning of 1300s. These villages actually provided logistic support for the Ottomans during the conquest of Bursa. It's very important due to its natural beauty, physical heritage, organic street pattern, and houses dating from the Ottoman era. Here we can see the houses. Physical structure in Cumalı Kızık is very important because it has these organic narrow cobblestone streets. The spring water from Mount Uludağ flows down the center of these streets, and it's used for the irrigation of the fields on the north of the village. There are very narrow streets and like 2 or 2.5 meters wide, which were planned actually for the passage of people and horse-drawn carriages. And there are small public squares within these squares, the streets. Here is an example of one of the small public squares. There are 2 main public squares in the village, and here the typical houses have ground floors with rough stone walls and close to the outside, and the upper floors which are constructed with adobe between chestnut frames and project to the street by means of cantilevers. Here you can see a view of the traditional houses. And another example of the house there. Of course, I have to talk about the different floors. Like the ground floor, as I said, is close to the outside, and it's used for stables or storage areas. The middle floor is used as winter floor because it's the height of the ceiling is not that high, and so it can be heated up in the winter. And the upper floor is used during the summers. Another characteristic of Cumalı Kızık is the formation of courtyards between the houses and the streets. These are semi-private spaces which are close to the exterior, which were actually, and later on, within all these changes that were taking in Cumalı Kızık, they were open to the streets. Many production activities are carried within these semi-private squares. The monumental buildings in Cumalı Kızık are also unique. Like this is the wooden mosque, and of course there are other buildings. Now, if we look at the social and economical structure in Cumalı Kızık, we can say that there's fertile land, rich in water resources, and agriculture comprises its main source of revenue. Although this village was saved for 700 years, after 1950s, evacuation and negligence started in the area. And after 1980s, important people were really becoming interested in this area, and creative revitalization process started in Cumalı Kızık. First of all, the Supreme Council of Monuments proclaimed the protection of the village in 1980, and it was announced to be an urban and natural preservation site in 1981. In 1983, the Agahan Foundation and the Chamber of Architects organized an architectural project competition for the area. And in 1990, the mosque and public bath, the cemetery, 2 monumental plane trees, and 57 houses were registered. Later on, more houses were registered. The sensitivity for Cumalı Kızık, which started in the 80s, has accelerated in the second half of the 90s. And both many institutions, the Chamber of Architects, the Foundation for the Conservation and Preservation of Environmental and Cultural Values, they all joined hands and tried and started restoring the houses. And also, it was not a physical development itself. It also concerned the social and economic revitalization of the city. Of course, women really played an important role in this whole creative revitalization process, because they were selling what they produce in their houses to the outsiders, and the whole community really gained a lot of value in terms of both the people living there and also for the larger area. Here you can see the entrance square with the women using putting their daily products and selling them to people. These activities have been incorporated in Cumalı Kızık Conservation and Revitalization Project undertaken by Bursa Local Agenda 21, Cumalı Kızık Conservation and Revitalization Group. Members of the central and local administration, universities, the NGOs, representatives of villagers and volunteers comprise the partners of this project. Here you can see how women are using, the ground floors of some of the houses for exhibiting their products. And again, this is the main square where women are using this in using their handmade goods in Cumalı Kızık. The provision of economic gain to the village through the evaluation of especially raspberry and blackberry products raised in the region, the development of touristic potential, the organization of women in the village to participate in production activities, the provision of different professions for young people, and the marketing of the products, and the support for raising the standard of education in the village school are some of the attempts. This pilot project, initiated in Cumalı Kızık with the proposed social and physical organization, aims to revitalize Cumalı Kızık and leave it as a heritage to future generations. This model, which maintains sustainable development with democratic participation, is a candidate to become an important example for enabling similar settlements to be revitalized in a national and international scale. Now, thirdly, I would like to talk about ACB, Asia Studio in Bursa, very shortly. And the main topic of this workshop was the creativity of the local. This is another historical village of Bursa, and here this was the site chosen for the workshop, organized by Uludağ, Tohoku, and Tsinghua universities last week. Because not many things have really taken place here. And this is the map of the place, and we have Misi, which is now called Gümüştepe in the region. This is the satellite view of Misi. A large river passes from the site, and here is as Professor Matsubar just talked about also shortly, we can see a lot of empty houses, and many problems are in this site. And we asked our students to discover the problems in the area and to bring solutions to the problems in a 4-day period. And the people who lived there, they really participated in the whole workshop from beginning to end. And this is the students working very hard on their project, some of the drawings. And this is the final presentation where you can see the local people, the governors, the students, and the students. Some of the examples of the jury. And I just wanted to conclude with a statement in the Invisible Cities. The city, however, does not tell its past, but contains it like the lines of a hand, written in the corners of the streets, the gratings of the windows, the banisters of the steps, the antennae of the lightning rods, the poles of flags, every segment marked in turn with scratches, indentations, and scrolls. In this presentation, the physical and social-cultural structure of Bursa and two villages in the region have been analyzed, and the traces of time have been read in the lines of the hands of these settlements. Despite all adverse developments in its history, Bursa, which has embraced many civilizations in its history, still shelters a secondary life and pursues its existence with a certain impulse comprising the historical processes. The presence of creative solutions in Bursa, based on local governance, has provided input to the workshop, which was a collaborative studio between three schools in three different countries with different social and physical environments. Not only did the whole process of the workshop in Misi involve the local people and local authorities in addition to academics and students, but also the resulting projects in the workshop embodied many creative ideas related to local governance. I want to end with 4 photographs of how the students and academics left the town. It really was a very interesting process for all of us, and I think we all learned from this process. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, Professor Dostoglu. So she introduced some different kind of locality which is more connected to the agriculture. Maybe this kind of things very related to the other sessions which we will have in this afternoon. And next speaker is Professor Malakov and Professor Lepina from Samara. Please come here to have a presentation.
Thank you very much for invitation. We are very proud to be here in Istanbul, and we try to speak some words about our creative activity in Samara. Samara is a Russian city. It's 1,000 kilometers from Moscow. And it's placed on the Volga River. Maybe somebody will see on the map, will find the city. It's 501 million, and it's a big industrial center. But it was founded in 1586, and the plan of historical part of the city is shaped by merge of two rivers, Samara and Volga river. And the most historical part was changed in 18th century into rectangular fabric. And now we have a system of rectangular historical blocks, 200 meters long and 130 meters width, just. And Samara has no bridges on opposite banks. We were lucky have no bridges. That's why it's interesting. We have two quite opposite structures, quite wild, natural, and extremely artificial. So there is an old panorama of a city at the beginning of 20th century. Most of the cathedrals were demolished later, after the October Revolution, sorry. And now we have some sort of rebirth again. We built a lot of cathedrals in the city. Okay, and there is a typical structure of historical block. It consisted of a small house and small yards, and most of buildings looked like normal peasant houses in villages, but stayed in more closed way. So, but in the downtown there are a lot of stone buildings done in different styles, quite eclectic one. And now you see some examples of wooden houses which were decorated from the main facades, but inside of the yard we had quite attractive space. We appreciate it like a very interesting space, quite good for families lived here and to contact each other. Yes, and we concern the main question, which is about the method of renovation and reconstruction historical part of a city. Not only historical, but environment in general, because people live not only in historical parts, they live everywhere. And so, but we started our activity from the historical part because it's the most significant for everybody who lives in a city. Yeah, but this scheme shows that our alternative movement is based on an idea that to be opposite to the official approach. The official approach, supported by big developing companies, is intended to build standard blocks, or looked like standard, but quite effective in pragmatic sense. And they try to be polite and to keep for us, for citizens, just a few monuments looked like on this scheme, just separate from environment. So, and actually for now we have the results of this official tendency to build everywhere huge buildings and not to keep and not to keep environment in general. So it's pity, but we of course our alternative project tried to do something opposite, but maybe we have no enough possibilities to struggle against. Now the very bad state. We just remember the speech about the Tbilisi situation. It was quite sad to hear. But this is our situation is not very successful too. Maybe more tragic one. Yes, and you see the master plan of official approach. It means the demolition of historical part and building the huge structures. It was done in the middle of ages, and now still big companies follow approximately the same approach, but they change the style, but the main idea is the same. So in our alternative projects, we try to keep environment not like this, but looked like more natural appearance. And doing this way, we try to invent some methods which allowed us to reach this situation, to reach these images, and we did it. The next way, we divided project team into 4 teams, and each teams represented different sides. One represented citizens, the second official project team from the state, the third was investors, and the second was some I don't remember exactly, but anyway. So, and these four teams produced together the final model of a block, and only in this case, when the cultural conflict and compromise was proved, so we could get this sort of natural looked environment of a historical part. So the main goal is not to preserve the environment, but to prove the approach which could allow us to follow the same code of a city. And these different projects show that when we ask different architects, please, let's do together. And when, for instance, one architect is responsible to do the part of a city, we get quite strange result. But when a lot of architects try to work together, we can get another one. It's strange too, but it's quite more interesting. It records the historical procedure of development of a city. So, and we investigated the historical code, and it could possible to invent some building complexes, structures looked like historical one, and to combine different new additions and old buildings together. It was for 10 years or maybe 15 years during the Soviet period we intended to, and still we believed that it's possible to realize. It was strange that we believed that. The funny reason is that we did not understand exactly that it wasn't possible at all. It wasn't possible because we had no city, we had no communities, and while only if we had communities, we could realize some sort of that idea. But if we had no communities, it's still we have no. It's not possible to realize. So we beat some speakers who showed us examples of activities of local communities. We have no this chance still now. And even when we ask some foreign architects, please participate in our projects. Please come to Samara and let's do projects together. We organized approximately 6 or 7 international project teams and meetings, different years, and tasked architects from Germany, Italy, the Netherlands. Please, let's do together. Let's think together and ask authority. Pay attention at the problem of the city. This is a tradition of Russia, appealing to authority. No else. No reason to go to the city and ask people, please, let's do together, because we have no citizens. The history of Russian cities this is a history of fortress. Maybe except we may, of course, say some words about the most historical part of Russia, like Moscow and St. Petersburg, or maybe yes. Sorry, and now I just want to give some words, the most important part of our speech now. And please, the main difference between approach to the renovation of a city or to method we use is a question of future. So most of us dream future as a paradise space, but the difference is only if we see it in the future or we see it in reality now. So, and we try to compare to approach to methods and developed so-called post-project program, and I give some important words to Evgeny to speak about it.
So we feel the great respect to all the work we saw above, devoted to the reconstruction and conservation of historical heritage. But we've asked ourselves, and still ask, and maybe address these questions to you, just few questions. When we turn the historical environment to a monument, to a museum, how to keep life inside? What to do with historical environment which have no special cultural value like it happens in Samara? And how to resist criminal attitude of authorities to the heritage and environment at all? And how to return back poetic feeling to the architecture? And maybe it's time to stop to produce things, buildings, and ideas, and to just to perceive and understand what is already exists in the world. And how to solve contradiction between creating unique, very expensive objects made by stars architects and the low quality of mass production building and the environment at all. So we will show you some projects which maybe you can call very utopian and maybe artistic and maybe close to art. We call it post-project. I will try to explain in a few words what does it mean. Everything started from us being enchanted for the situation of spontaneous beauty. Which we found big contrast with our ordinary life. Here, couples of images. And being involved in architectural practice, we asked ourselves, yes, what else? And we supposed that we felt disappointment, and we supposed that architectural method is the main reason of the boredom of modern architecture. This method enclosed in the author's head and give us an example of linear cause and effect connection, project and then realization. And we, in our Samara reality, we collected some images of strange and abandoned and non-functional objects, and we felt that these objects feed our feelings, and we feel mystery and poetry and metaphysics. And we tried to investigate how to reproduce such qualities in our practice. For example, we asked students to try to, in one day, to build some spontaneous architecture. So we were interested. What is the key detail for this world, for this effect, and where is the reason, and where is the consequence? And we made a lot of drawings and models, and in this point we've got that it is possible to turn the direction of time in design project, and we put the consequence, I mean culture and existing object, as a consequence, and before the reason. I mean, project and realization. And we call it post-project. There are few examples of post-projects, and I will maybe give in a short resume for them. For example, this is Titanic House. Company Mabis Atlantic North has demanded from the designers to make a project of a house situated in a narrow channel, which was discovered in the city of in the center of the city. 5 flats of this house are created in the topology of nests, hung from both sides of the supporting wall. The form of the house associated with the ocean liner of the 30s, and at the same time with the mood of Samara courtyards in the historical environment. Titanic House with 5 occupants move now nowhere day and night. The idea is that we invent stories about possible clients, and which are sometimes our friends. Sometimes we invent these characters. And the second house is the Doors house. After Morrison's death, the members of the rock band The Doors bought a plot of land close to Samara, and they designed a house in the shape of a bus, which is bending at a turn, and a color movie about ocean waves projecting on the walls of this house. From the north side of it, we can find a terrace on which Dunsmore and Simmons used to smoke or play in chairs in hot July days. Palazzo Massimo Iori. This house was designed to our friend Italian architect Massimo Iori in the style of Renaissance palazzo. The idea of the project is to combine ancient-looking wall with few small spaces from inside, which form a special courtyard. Green shape is dining room. Yellow shape is a dining room, green is a chapel, and blue one is a staircase. This courtyard turned to the ever-empty pool, which is resembles the owner of films by Tarkovsky, and embodiment the concept neglected in mind, because this pleases owner more than swimming or looking at goldfish. The house of Hector Borisov. This client, Hector Borisov, is currently turning his hand in directing his own production, and the passions which rage in the soul of Hector embodies in 2 contrast objects, a cylinder and a small house. A closed cylindrical volume containing the audience seats and a stage, and this small house is a fireplace and a small kitchen. A glass crossover leads from under the stage to the fireplace. And the idea is that the huge cylinder remains empty most of time, because nothing can be organized like in a real theater, where people come to work every day. And I will show some few objects. Yes.
But I mean, this house was published in the French magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Modern Architecture, I don't know how to say.
Architectural d'aujourd'hui.
Oh yeah, like this.
And so on and so on. And I think we have no time to show everything, but I think you get the idea. And the idea is quite short, that we suggest not to invent new forms anymore, but we try to deliver the most meaning and the most pleasure from what has already been built in the world. And we were invited to represent Russia in the second Architectural Biennale in Rotterdam. And we call this project Instant City, and it's also devoted to our Samara identity. I don't know, I think we have no time, but just a few images.
I only can say that it's, for instance, it's me, but really it's not me. It's Jack Kentsel. He's a client in dreams of mine. So he's much better than me, and he dreams about the to be very good architect. So he established this bureau opposite of the Volga River in a small house.
Oh, simply saying, it is possible to express as follows: being disappointed in the reaction of authorities and citizens, we had nothing to do but escape to our imaginable world, and that is the idea. But we love our environment, and we love this language, and we love the spirit which these houses do have, objects.
At the same time, it's the work with this sort of objects lost in space of our endless country. It teaches us just to go anywhere and to look for ordinary objects and anonymous architecture anywhere. To speak with normal people and not to dream about things which are never could be realized anymore. So we don't know precisely now that what we are really can to dream, what sort of paradise we could realize during our life or further. And so we speak with our students, please be more careful to environment, and please do not so much. Please do invisible intervention. Please speak the way when people could be happy without your arriving at their home. Please do like your soul helps to you think about this. Sorry, just maybe. Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting presentation. Their work sometimes makes me it looks like something very pessimistic attitude. If Sergei said they are coming from the place of no community, or the place with no citizens, the city of Samara. But sometimes, for example, their works shows me very optimistic ideas to reuse the abundant situation or something. It's a really powerful presentation, I think. So we invite this last, now we have exceeded lots of time, but we have one more presenter, Professor Nouriga from Montpellier, France, please.
Good morning, and I'm going to present a special project for this conference. And in first time, I just want to introduce me and my associate, because we have three parts in our practice. So the first part, together we are a professor at the ENSAM. ENSAM is the School of Architecture in Montpellier. And in second part of our practice, we have together our own office in Montpellier, south of France, and the name is NB Architect. And the third part, we create from 2006, in Montpellier, a festival of architecture, and the name of this festival is Festival des Architectures Vives. In English, it's a Lively Architecture Festival. And together we are in the middle of these 3 points. So today I just introduce the festival, and about the question of creative city, I just speak about this festival. So this festival takes place in Montpellier. So this is the localization. Montpellier, it's in the south of France, near the Mediterranean beach. And this is a very beautiful city with a very beautiful old center with a lot of heritage building and a very interesting space. But so this is its map of only the center of the city, and one of the specificity of Montpellier, it's in this center we have more than 70 mansions built during the 17th century. So it's a very heavy and a very important heritage part of the city. As perhaps you know, in France, we have a very good system about the heritage building and for preserve and for do that we can do best about all this heritage. But in fact, if we protect so the heritage, we create a new problem that it's so private, it's so protect that nothing spent inside, and a lot of the inhabitants in fact forget this piece of the city. So in Montpellier, around 90% of this mansion was private, and so nobody can enter us inside. So the idea of the festival, it's of course to refound for the inhabitant this very beautiful heritage. But about the question of the creativity, it's we think that if we want that the heritage, it's like an interesting part of the city, it must to continue to live with the inhabitant. You must to have some life inside this building, and not like a piece of the city just fixing inside the eyes with nothing can spend inside. So this main object of this festival, it's to in fact reveal this heritage with a contemporary architecture inside, and we can do it because it's just a festival take place a short time. So usually you have this situation. You have the mansion with a very beautiful courtyard, and on the street you just pass through. You never can enter us, and you forget that this very beautiful place. So you just see some door, very beautiful but closed door, and just behind this door you can have this kind of beautiful place, but nobody can enter us and can visit it. So the main object of this festival, in first, is to open the door and to give the possibility at the inhabitant to enter us inside the courtyard and to visit and to cross the heritage and the contemporary architecture inside this very beautiful place. So the goal of the festival, as I can explain first, is to open the courtyard for the public during a very short period. All the time it's only during 4 days, to allow the inhabitants of the mansion to look at their close environment differently, to reveal each space with a contemporary architecture in installation, and to bring the architecture to everybody, to open a discussion with the inhabitant and the visitor regarding the question of heritage and contemporary architecture, to show the work of the young architect. And for that, the festival selects each year 10 teams, and plus we invite one university of architecture each year, and all of them present a specific and original installation, create specific for the courtyard where the installation is going to take place. And the festival is just open during 4 days, but it's around 6,000 visitors during this 4 days. I just want to show you quickly a video of the festival, and after I just restart the presentation.
Histoire.
Contemporanéité.
Privé.
Public.
Intérieur.
Extérieur.
Durable.
Éphémère.
Physique.
Virtuel.
Connaître.
Surprendre. Quatre éditions à succès à Montpellier.
Plus de 100 projets présentés en 2009.
Près de 2000 visiteurs chaque jour lors de sa dernière édition.
Dualité.
Contraste. Changement.
Échange.
International. Phare.
Festival des architectures.
So now I'm just going to explain more some projects. This video is just for give you a global vision of this festival. So I take some example of some installations that some yoga architects create in this festival. So for example, in this courtyard, it's in the center of the Montpellier. So as you can see, the image have a large corridor, and it's of course an interesting place, but not the usage inside. It's not so very interesting, and this is its courtyard usually. So this is the installation and the changement of this corridor with only a very simple material, only with a balloon, with a red balloon, and the proposition of this team, it's to create, to refine the space with the question of the density and the open space of this courtyard. So this large corridor just change, and you have a very feeling of height density on it. And when you arrive in the courtyard, all the balloons just float inside the space, and like that, it reveals the place, the space of this courtyard by the only the simple balloon. Just float inside the space, and like that you can refine the scale of the space. And that it's interesting. It's during this festival. It's not a festival only for the architect, but for everybody. And it's a very interactive festival, and all the inhabitants are take a lot of pleasure of refine this place and to discuss about this installation. Another place, it's a very interesting courtyard, very beautiful, with very beautiful light inside. And this is an installation take place 2 years ago. The name is Abri number 1077. And the idea of the architect is to create like a hut with a minimum object for protect the human, and they choose the umbrella, and they want to create a space like a hut, for like a protect place for the one person. So they use the umbrella to create this installation. You can interest inside, and when you are inside, you can open or close the umbrella as you want, and like that you can have some different relationship with the courtyard. You can have different point of view, and you choose exactly as you want this place. It's open or closed, completely closed when somebody is inside. And it was a very interesting installation, or completely open if you want to enter us inside. In the same courtyard, 1 year after, we have an interesting installation was created with a sound. Of course, Montpellier is near the beach, so then the thematic of this year was ephemeral curiosity. So they want to create a new scale, a new landscape inside this courtyard, and they use some sound with the really same color that in the courtyard. And like that, you can walk in this new landscape inside the courtyard, and you redefine the scale of the place. After 4 days, it just falls down. And that is interesting because during these 4 days, it changed the face of the scale of the courtyard. Another, it's a strange courtyard because it's not really interesting because during all the life of this place have some additional construction and not very interesting. Normally we have to destroy this additional, but it's here. So the idea is to change the atmosphere in this courtyard. It's very warm, and you don't want to stay long time in it. So for that, they just change the ground and they just put some grass and create a new landscape inside this courtyard. With only the grass, it's completely changed the weather, not the weather, but the climate of the temperature of this courtyard. And it was a very fresh courtyard only with this grass. And a lot of people can come inside and just stay all the afternoon, take a book, and use very differently this place. And for us, that is interesting to can say that, in fact, with a few things, you can completely change a place. You can, with not necessary to destroy, to reconstruct, but with a few things about architecture, you can change the manner to live inside a place. And so a lot of people stay on it. Another, this is again a very beautiful place, and this installation was created by the team of the Tokyo University that we invited last year, and they create a very interesting installation with a fan. The name in Japan is Uchiwa. And normally in Japan during the summer they use it for put the publicity on it, and it's not a very precious material, but you can see they have in their hand the kind of uchiwa. And that is interesting because they use this very common material for create a very beautiful installation and for without the space in this courtyard. And that is interesting. It's before to come to inside the courtyard, they design an installation very fixed. And once they arrive, they see the space and say, no, we can't do that. And they completely change, and in only 2 days, they decide to, in fact, reuse this space, and they create on-site the installation, as you can say, and it's just fixed. I don't know exactly how they do, but it just fixed one by one. The fan, and that is interesting. It's they give at everybody the possibility to keep one, and after in the city of Montpellier you can see everybody with a very beautiful yellow and yes fan. So this is a team and the installation inside the courtyard. So again, with a very simple material, you can change completely the place. A lot of people come to visit it. Another, it's in another place. This courtyard is interesting because it's very dark and with a two-piece with a light. And house is very dark. The architect Alkmea decided to put a big piece of ice on the middle, and how the thematic was the question of ephemeral. They want to show the question of the climate on the ice and how the ice, in fact, it's melting very quickly. So they put in the first day this big block of ice, and during the 4th day, in fact, the ice just melts slowly, and you can see after the flower just fix inside the ice to grow up, and at the end you can see the flower in the middle of the courtyard. For them too, it's the idea of heritage, that you have to do very be careful that the heritage is not only something fixed inside the ice, but if you can use it, it's like this flower. In fact, you can have a very beautiful place. For this year, we start the 5th edition of the festival. I just show you quickly. Now we just have some image. The thematic, it's a shadow and light. So this normally the installation we will have, and at this time it's just the image from the architect. And we have some team from Japan, some team from Italian, and some team from France too. So thank you, and you're welcome in Montpellier for the next festival in June. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Professor Norigat. Now, so it was very beautiful presentation, but the time is very limited, and we have no coffee break. Directly start the next session. Please come on the stage of the session 4. Please, Professor Radovich will be the moderator.
I will just give a very brief introduction, and then let, of course, the 4 speakers show their presentations. So this session is entitled Community Management and Policy Making, and it brings together 4 really quite loosely grouped papers. It is fairly broad topic, but also it is a very loose composition of papers, as you are going to see, but very interesting topics. I thought that it is important, as Matsubara-san did also, to introduce my own work, because we will be, I hope, joining discussion together. My interest in research is the nexus between environmental and cultural sustainability. So very often we speak about conservation and preservation. I like the term cultural sustainability because it is about sustaining culture in all sorts of ways, which is very often not about keeping physical artifacts, but about trying to perpetuate the energy, the life in or between those physical artifacts. So situations where architecture and urban design overlap in terms of scales, and when architectural and urban scales overlap. For me, cultural and environmentally diverse contexts are most interesting, where those environments which expose difference and offer encounter. And the credo, my position that I like to bring in, is that neither the path of ecological nor that of cultural sustainability can be taken separately. I think very often we speak only about culture or only about environment, while that is possible only theoretically. Very often, if we are dealing only with culture, we are damaging environment, and vice versa. So it is very important, I think, to consciously seek future with the harmonious synthesis of environmental and cultural values. So I will just show 3 slides which are summarizing 3 longish sentences of my work recently. This is a book which I published last year, which Rutledge published last year, which I had the pleasure of initiating and editing. First is that idea of bringing environmental and cultural together. I see that as a concept of eco-urbanity, which is very often, as I say, about separating those two rather than integrating those two sensibilities. So for me, there is a need to redefine urbanity, to redefine it in a sense of going back to the original meaning, which is about good manners. And then, if they get extended beyond interpersonal relations towards the whole of the city, we can speak about decidedly urbane environments. And then, if the same attitude gets extended even further to the whole of our environment, we can speak about truly sustainable environments, culturally and environmentally. That is where environmental and cultural breathe together. The other work that I wanted just briefly to summarize in 2 paragraphs is a paper which was published by Mike Jenks in this book a year and a half ago or so, which I entitled World City Hypothesis Revisited. Export and import of urbanity is a dangerous business. That subtitle was very important for me because we see very often the idea of global knowledge, spreading ideas and collaboration, which is all fantastic, but also there are dangers in copying, in looking across boundaries and uncritically importing. So, referring back to the World City Hypothesis by John Friedman, I thought that it is important to put some precautionary measures which are more appropriate for our 21st century. And the first position there was that there is a need to reinforce Lefebvre's powerful request for the renewed right to the city, and also, at the same time, a right to difference. The right to be empowered and to be different against the forces which Lefebvre called homogenization, fragmentation, hierarchically organized power, and which we are experiencing today, very often under the name of globalization. Matsubara Sensei mentioned that word globalization. He positioned his work very clearly as against globalization. I think that it is definitely necessary to be very critical when we, or very, very cautious when we are embracing that fantastic force which is bringing us together here. And the second part of the hypothesis which I wanted to mention here is that besides right to the city and right to difference, there is a right to each particular city, a right to each particular urbanity as fully developed local cultures. So each city, and here we are speaking about many fantastic cities with very strong indigenous autochthonous cultures, each of those cities need to have its own right, the right of and the right to its own particular urbanity, urban culture. And we need to reclaim an ability to live multiple worlds. And for that, we need multiple practices that generate, multiply the rules which define excellence. As you know, what this means is that today, when we speak about world-class city, cities are becoming very much alike. In Istanbul, you see emerging something that looks like CBD. We have heard a presentation which speaks about the future of Istanbul as having a strong CBD. CBDs are emerging everywhere, although CBDs belong to particular culture, to culture of particular money. So this kind of hypothesis is questioning that, or actually not questioning, but just stressing that Henri Lefebvre was right again when he was speaking about the city as a spatial projection of society. Global money, global power produces global environments, and they are not local. They are very often opposed to local culture. So my work at the moment is focusing on Tokyo. I teach at Keio University in Tokyo. My laboratory is called Collabo, and that probably tells everything about the way of work I need to apply there. And I am in Tokyo because that is a city, fantastic city of amazing culture, which is profoundly different from that of my own. And it is very interesting to look culture through the eyes of the foreigner. When I was flying here, this was very interesting. This was almost the route flight from Tokyo to Israel, which goes above all these places that we are exploring here, this corridor which connects east and west from Istanbul to Tokyo. So that is the outline, a kind of set of ideas that I would like to bring to this table, apart from presentations that we are going to hear from four speakers. When we finish this presentation, I will come up with a couple of questions, and if we have time, we will answer them here or over the lunch upstairs. So, 4 presentations. First one by Chen Weizhen, who is Associate Professor at Tongji University in Shanghai. The second one by Lu Duanfang, Senior Lecturer at the University of Sydney. Then Cosmina Guage, an architect from Bucharest. And Yasuaki Onoda from Sendai in Japan. So, let's begin with Chen Weizhen. Guy, to each presenter, 5 minutes before the end of presentation, I will show this, then this, and then this.
Good morning, everyone. I will be very short. My topic is sustainable urban mutation and ecological construction in central megacity, and I will take Shanghai Xuhui district as an example. and the Xuhui district located southwest of downtown Shanghai, and its GDP ranked 1st among Shanghai's 9 central districts. Xuhui district is also famous for its historical buildings. The region has 138 outstanding historical buildings, which is accounting for 21st of Shanghai. And in these years, this district is facing perplexity during development. Although the government of Xuhui has pumped millions of funds into the conservation, restoration, and utilization of the old city for years, but it's still confronted with the biggest regeneration pressure. The table can show the statistic of historical residential properties in Xuhui district by 2001 and 2008. And I think Xuhui district, although has an area of 54 square kilometer, but its land resources scarcity has become a bottleneck of development, and the main cause is the high cost of the land. In this will take 2 examples. One example is Jianyeli. This project is located in Jianguo Road. It consists of 22 rows of 2-story buildings of brick and wood structure, and it's featuring the typical architecture of Shanghai's Shikumen neighborhood. And it's built in 1930. Now most of buildings have structural damage and are completely overloaded. Now, after the redevelopment, the neighborhood is transformed into a complex block of hotels. The layout is the redevelopment urban planning, and because the mixed use, a lot of land changed into a complex block of hotels, commercial land, office, and housing. The floor area ratio may be 1.3. And this project is headed by market. So the total required funds for construction is up to $133 million. So the 65% of which is from the foreign enterprises, others from domestic enterprises. The project achieves a balance of funds through function, transformation, and newly developed buildings without any public subsidies. So this map shows the relocation of the residents. You can see from the report of Morning Post Liberation Net on the March 13th, 1910. It says Jianyeli, Shanghai's largest Shikumen neighborhood buildings, are transformed into luxury housing. The price of 31 house may reach up to 130,000 per square meter. So this is the one case. The other case is Wukang Road. This road is has a total length of more than 1.1 kilometer. It was first built at the end of the 19th century and stands as one of the oldest urban roads in Shanghai's western district. And there are a large number of historic buildings. 14 outstanding historic buildings are located around the roadside. In 2005, the road was designed as a road that is permanently prohibited from being widened. So this project is headed mainly by welfare restoration. This carried out by Xuhui district government mainly, and is not aiming at profit, and the source of funding comes mainly from public investment. you can say the project remain the residents living in the neighborhoods. A series of action including restoration of outstanding historic buildings, renovation of land houses, and advocate regulation of buildings and walls, and the regulation of business types, green space improvements, and etc. So from these two cases, we can say the different value orientations of two modes. Which one, the Jinyeli is migration renovation, and the other is welfare restoration. But the same value is these two projects emphasis on ecological innovation in historical district regeneration. And especially they all use energy saving technology. These technologies include external wall insulation, roof insulation, and installation glass units, solar water heating system, and the high effect and low energy consumption equipment, and the energy saving lighting and water saving sanitary equipment, and etc. So I think yesterday the Professor Miak has concluded a very perfect structure. I think it's also very keywords or key point about Shanghai's urban mutation, and the two is most important. One is the innovation for the lifestyle and the technology. In Shanghai, maybe it means the low carbon because our country's background. And the other maybe is the local empowerment by community-based approach. In these two cases, there is an innovation about of land management committee. This is very interesting because the old historic district cannot like the new development residential district. So this is also an innovation in Shanghai. The low carbon, this is the low carbon about the Shanghai's background. We all know Shanghai sport at the speed of 30 million square meters every year, and the population of Shanghai reached 18 million, and 6.6 million migrated from the other places. And Shanghai has a hot and humid summer and a chill and dry winter. So the low carbon is very important for Shanghai. And in the ecological innovation in historical district regeneration, I think there is maybe three aspects more important. One is the reconstruction of existing buildings. Maybe it include apply the mature and suitable local energy saving technology and new materials. Also about the integrating the passive and active construction technology about architecture, and achieving ecological energy saving and environmental friendly green building. The second is the low carbon community construction, and the third is green lifestyle initiative. And this is becoming popular in China and in Shanghai, these mega cities. So the accept ecological innovation and the other local employment maybe include these 3 points, and about maybe utilize the cultural resource instead of appreciating land value. And the second, maybe the market regulating, reduce the residents' business conflict. Renovation contributes both economic and socially. And the third is maybe the little removal and new construction to improve the life of the masses, to keep continuous vitality and culture merging. So that's all. And thanks and welcome to visit Shanghai Expo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is so good to be moderator when somebody is finishing 1 minute early. Thanks. It's a very interesting paper, and I was very glad to see how it continues those things that I'm really interested in. Fine juxtaposition of two approaches which want to be different. And also that idea of bringing environmental together with cultural, I think, comes together quite strongly. Of course, many issues that would be interesting to discuss, and I hope to have time, like this hyper-gentrification, which was happening in the first example. And also public-private, which is always so controversial and so interesting. Because David Harvey, I remembered him, he always says public-private partnership is very interesting. Private always takes the profit, and public takes the risks. So the next speaker is Lu Duofan. She will offer cross-cultural comparison, China, Australia.
Good afternoon. Thank you for staying with us. First of all, I'd like to apologize for shifting the topic, because this is actually my original topic, but because I was assigned to an urban section, so I proposed another topic. But after yesterday's discussion with a few colleagues, I think it might be better to just talk about my original topic, which might be useful for some people here to think about their case studies, because I noticed that most of the presentations are about case studies rather than theoretical discussion. So basically, the new title is Rethinking Indigenous Knowledge in Modern China, Modern Architecture. Sorry. I'd like to start my presentation with this quote from Chinese anthropologist Fei Xiaotong. During a visit to the United States in 1943, Fei noted the differences between China, where contemporary life was engulfed in the thick layers of the accumulated past, and America, where people were future-oriented but nonetheless dominated by an alienating order. Ghosts in Fei's vision represented the presence of the specter of the past that continuously haunted the present and made up the very core of being Chinese. Quote, life in its creativity melts past, present, and future into one indistinguishable, multi-layered thing, a three-dimensional body. This is what ghosts are. In contrast, living in brightly lit American rooms, Fei wrote, quote, give you a full sense of confidence that this is all of the world, that there's no more reality than what appears clearly and brightly before your eyes. Fei's comments encapsulate a grasp of the modern that wrestles with the differences of histories, cultures, nationalities, and ethnicities. Indeed, despite the false sense of confidence in the universality, purity, and homogeneity of modernity given by dominant discourses, recent accounts have revealed the constant wrestling with ghosts of all sorts, not as an eccentric experience, but as a fundamental feature of modernity and modern architecture that has been there from the very beginning and will not go away. To think the modern is to think the present, which is necessarily caught in the ever-shifting social, political, and cultural cross-currents. In previous canonical discourses, modernization was conflamed with westernization. Unmodernized societies were viewed as inferior and would sooner or later evolve to more westernized ones according to universally applicable rules. More recently, commenting on the passing of communism, Francis Fukuyama claims that all nations with distinctive past will necessarily reach for a common liberal democracy, with no legitimate alternative to the latter as the universal form of political economic structure for all societies. We are now facing the end of history. The actual developments of the 1990s, however, contest such an hegemonic assumption. As pasts which had long been relegated as backward and behind, resurrect in different parts of the world. It seems that conflicts over modernity are articulated as part of the Cold War antagonism between socialist and capitalist models have been replaced with a surge of diverse cultural claims in the era of globalization. In response to this historical context, and with the epistemological break triangulated by the post-structuralist, postmodern, and post-colonial theory, a major trend in the theories of modernity has been a turning from singular, linear, teleological, Eurocentric models to those of multiple alternative, global, and other modernities. The idea of multiple modernities formulated by Eisenstein and others, for example, recognize the multiplicity of cultural programs and argue that the culturally specific forms of modernity will continue to exert their influence upon various systems, institutions, and other aspects of modern societies. Yet, although it's a positive move from the previous unilinear model of modernization, the underlying assumptions of the multiple modernities model are problematic. First, while the latter implies the instance of the modern outside the West or the localization of an original Western modernity, studies on everyday modernities, for example, demonstrate that there are multiple ways of being modern which are not the less perfect, incomplete versions of an idealized, full-blown modernity, but constituents with their own trajectories, discourses, social institutions, and categories of reference. And second, the multiple modernities model pictures local histories as disconnected variations, each confined to a priority, a state-defined space, and follow an internal logic. To quote Eric Wolf, this is a model of the world as a global pool hall. Yet recent accounts of everyday modernities and some other or alternative modernities points to the importance of multiple patterns of interlocking not only between non-Western and Western locales, but also among non-Western ones. Indeed, certain geopolitical forms of modernity, such as Soviet, Chinese, Indian, and Japanese, have proved more influential than the Euro-American ones in shaping the modern in some regions. My book, Remaking Chinese Urban Form, for example, demonstrates that the seemingly long-established Chinese norms of neighborhood planning were indeed results of transnational interactions informed by events, sources, and inspirations from various parts of the globe, and the impact of the Soviet model was more significant than others during the early period of Chinese socialism. In addition, there are a few epistemological problems left by the model of multiple modernities. For example, on what grounds should we read one modernity in terms of another? Is there not a real danger of misconstruing other modernities while viewing them solely from positions provided by metropolitan theory? And more importantly, is it possible to develop more sensible architecture based on mutual persuasions between different modernities? I argue that the recognition of other modernities has to be posited at the level of epistemology in order to imagine an open globality based not on asymmetry and dominance, but on connectivity and mutual persuasions. This call is made not out of pure epistemological concerns, but rather out of a concrete historical situation. As recent post-colonial scholarship has made clear, no chapter in Western modernity is complete unless it includes the history of the epistemological violence that European colonial power did to other peoples. During the course of construing the contemporaneity of the rest of the world as the primordial prehistory of the dominant self, the West dropped other knowledges as irrational narratives that were lacking in epistemological validity and should be exorcised away. With this calculated refusal, the way was paved for the spread of sovereignty of Western knowledge throughout of the world, which has enduring consequences long after the end of colonialism. On one hand, other regional intellectual traditions, once unbroken and alive, are treated as purely matters of historical research, devoid of any theoretical lineage. On the other hand, the very regionality of Western thoughts is misguided as an uncontestable universalism whose cognitive formula assumes a central role even in places where realities are completely out of sync with happenings in the metropolis. The global sovereignty of architectural modernity and suppression of other architectural knowledges have had destructive consequences for the built environment across the world. And this is a village in Fujian province in China, in South China. As you can see, once the peasants get rich, they prefer to build these concrete brick modern style buildings rather than the traditional earth buildings. So as you can see, more and more traditional earth buildings were replaced by these modern concrete buildings. How much time? Okay, -1. It's quite bad because I still have almost half of the paper. 15 minutes is just too short for coherent paper. But I guess I'll just quickly jump to my conclusions. So basically, my central argument of this paper is that unless other modernities are recognized not merely as other life worlds, but as legitimate epistemic spaces of knowledge production, no substantial progress can be made to check the march toward homogeneity. And it's time to infantilize other architectural knowledges and space rationalities to create a common ground for correspondences and dialogues on equal basis. And it's time to open our architectural education to a multiple perspective and multi-logical program, which encourages the connectivity and interpenetration among different understandings of dwellings and buildings. And I think the buildings on the bank of Ganges in Varanasi in India serves as an appropriate example to illustrate this direction, where the local still retains the power to decide what the local should be like. Universalism is created for people with equal destinies, and specifications are made to accommodate situations and their meanings. And the modern is just one of the many possibilities. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you very much for attending a presentation on magic blocks in Bucharest, Romania. It is about a project of socialist collective housing rehabilitation initiated 1 year ago by Zeppelin Association from Bucharest and Archist Interventions Berlin, Archist Interventions Southeastern Europe, based in Berlin, with partners as seen. I'd like to introduce the subjects through this photo taken by a very famous Romanian photographer, who is also very skilled on social interaction. As you can imagine, it is quite difficult to take a snapshot, such a snapshot without permission. This is not our team, as someone asked, or directed scene. It is a very real one, and very representative for the actual situation in Bucharest, the need for public space. Why to study socialist apartment block neighborhoods? Because even if more than 70% of people from Bucharest are living in them, and there are a lot of problems, nobody is talking about it. The main problems are gentrification of central districts and ghettoization for the cheaper areas in the periphery. So the process of deterioration touches both technical and social aspects. Then, for a first glance, the landscape seems to be very similar with social houses development in Western Europe. But the difference here is that they are not meant for economically disadvantaged people, but for everybody. It simply was the only type of new housing during communist regime. Once the communist state was the only owner of block of flats. After falling in 1990, inhabitants were permitted to buy their apartment immediately after that. But through transition to capitalism, people were becoming more and more poor, and nobody was able to maintain the building, which is now in a critical state. Last time, on one place or another, owners or authorities are trying to improve the things, but out of any global urban strategy. As you can see here, it is a greenery fenced, so it is a contradiction in terms, because it is not permitted to be used in a proper way. Of course, these neighborhoods are not only problem generators, there is also great urban potential in here, a precious space reserve. How to approach such a complex situation? For the beginning, we got some working principle that resulted from first workshop last summer. The city is a lively entity, so any rehabilitation project is to be considered in terms of a process, integrating both the building and the space around them. Lacking rules, very often the private business initiatives comes into conflict with the main living functions above, and for surviving, all of them need to negotiate. As during the communist period, the private property was practically inexistent. It is perfectly understandable that people are keen on accaparate as much as possible from the public space, but they had to understand that they have to share it with the community. Again, it is fair enough to get back the former stolen property, but without precise rules or regulations, it is a great danger to come to a situation like this one, to very freak image. So, An urgent and coherent action is required, and all disparate actions should be put together into one urban project of development. Here is the map of Bucharest with some different examples of collective housing neighborhood, and different contexts call for different strategy, which have to be adapted for implementation only supervised by architects and urban planners or other professional urban actors. Here we have the we have here functionalist a neighborhood from 60-70 on the principle of free urban planning, where slabs and towers are floating amid vast expanses of greenery. This is one of our case studies. We have also a difference of building quality between the poorest area on the south and the more expensive one on the north of the city. And then during 80s, the communist regime was looking for a new city for new people. And faster modernization, mainly along the main streets, main boulevards, for a better visibility, for rapid visibility. And the regime collapsed in 89, leaving behind it an old city center jagged by concrete curtains and huge expanses of vast land behind. We've come to 3 areas in Bucharest were selected and during the workshops, and 3 specific cases and actions resulted for each of them. The first one is on Moșilor Boulevard, the grey curtain of concrete simply cuts a historical tissue and divides the city. Gentrification due to highly central position in one city into the city, and in front of the boulevard, the dense and the well-equipped corridor behind the concrete wall, the historic city hidden and isolated, and a huge spice reserve in between them. We came up with new strategies of activating the area in order to integrate it into the city. Through directing activities from the main corridor on the spare land behind those blocks, various type of interventions will take place with the involvement of local community. The idea is to redirect propose some different functions for different spaces, leisure playgrounds, better reorganized parking places to leave room for others, and so on. Oh, sorry. And another scenario is on Balta Albă. There are some images 20 years ago, and so we've proposed here integrated project of rehabilitation, an economic and technical model of integrated rehabilitation gifted to the public administration. And here is the third scenario in northern Bucharest for a courtyard surrounded by a block of flats. We've proposed somehow with the first case study, but reorganization and new later functions. But we found that an owner recovered a major part of the inner area and intends to build a block in the middle. So we've immediately initiated some cultural actions together with the community to stop this construction, just to block this development, retrocession with possibility of construction. These are our proposals for scenarios, and I'll come right to the real interventions. It was about a tree, Christmas tree, organized together with people living in there, and bench, an urban object, which was realized, and it is still there, used in different ways by people from a community. I'll tell briefly the conclusions. So institutions in Romania are moving very slow. For the beginning, and in parallel with the urban general project for the city, any initiative and action of public space is extremely welcome. Small investitions could get a great impact, acting as good examples and generating further actions. Then project communication and promotion are very important. Politicians and decision makers, as you know, are looking for visibility and for instant results. So they could be simply be persuaded to apply some already projects, but doubled by a very good public visibility, and this is possible to reach some by media communication, by public communication. So in this perspective, an important input of our project was that we are also journalists and architects, of course. We are editorial team of Arkitera magazine, the main professional publication in Romania, and part of international media network, so they could count on it. The project is on progress, and even if the actual realization of pilot project is postponed for a while, we hope, due to all sort of crises, we are happy for our main achievement, and this is the fact that people are coming as volunteers in our project. Thank you very much.